welcome to the place of wrath and tears. We are Sans Ilan for tonight. He's okay, but he's not going to be able to be here. So we are going to have a night with the two queens, and that's not going to make it any nicer. So, however, because we were gone for a month because real life happens, we are going to take a minute and we're going to remind everybody, including ourselves, of what the fuck happened, where the fuck we are, and what the fuck we want to do. So where the fuck we are is we are in Metropolis, the home of God, the home of the enlightened humans who were shackled by God, the home of the Archons, the 10 keys to the golden cage of Elysium. And the eventual capital P, capital L promised land of the Van Horsts. However, instead of milk and honey, they found only vitriol. And God, I wish I'd have thought of that earlier. Write that one down. And things have not been quite as promised landy as the dreams of the Van Horsts thought they were going to receive. And I'm going to ask you two actually some, like, what do you think you were going to get when you got here sort of questions in a minute to kind of get into the headspaces. But what happened a couple of games ago is that the Van Horsts, being thoughtful, peaceful people who always make really good decisions, ended up feeding an entire people into a Pink Floyd music video-esque death machine that ground them all up and killed them and reduced them to vitriol, which is a old-fashioned alchemical term and or substance. I haven't decided if it's actually cool and magic or if it's just merely something. And then the one that they let live, and really, you know, if you look at it from its perspective, you can't really say that it was wrong. Opened up a back door and let a hunting party in that was out of the environment when the massacre occurred, and they gave their level best attempt to kill the Van Horsts. They used several interesting weapons, one of which was some kind of a brassy, like 2-foot-long nailish thing that apparently pierces both body and soul, which Bethany, the most stable and absorbent of harm soul in the group, found out rather intimately. And when last we were with the Van Horsts, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is what we remembered, Bethany is in a swoon due to the serious wound she has received, which is a not terribly, I mean, it's super bad, but a not terribly bad through and through of, you know, right below and around the shoulder joint, and also some amount of psychic trauma of having pieces of your soul or your animus get dragged away from the body that's supposed to house it. That's not a thing that's supposed to happen. And like most events of hyperextension, it does leave some lasting trauma. So, and when last we were with Clara, I believe that her mind was set very desperately on the apparent lack of heroin in heaven. And yes. And how much of a problem that is, and how unready they are, and generally some dashed dreams. So, speaking of dashed dreams, what dreams were dashed in this little stint in Metropolis? Like, what expectations did you have as either, I mean, as players too, because I'd be interested in that, but as characters specifically? Like, what, as you prepare to try to leave Metropolis or even figure out how to do that, you know, stage 1 problem, what are you thinking about? Are you feeling a sense of betrayal? Are you feeling like you didn't know enough, like an internal, like an inward facing emotional state? Where are you at?
Clara's overall very practical, but she was also still the most tied to Elysium going in. And so she's sad. She's sad that after they proved themselves, like, we did it. We proved ourselves. It involved committing genocide, and that was fucking awful. But like, we took the throne. This place should have been ours. We did all of the right steps, and we claimed all the right things, and still they betrayed us. And while we won the second fight, everybody's hurt. She is hurt. Bethany is really hurt. And it's not following the like heroic story arc. Like, we are the rightful ones on the throne here. We should be retaking our thrones, and everybody's not falling in line when we've done the narrative thing that we're supposed to be doing. So Clara is mad that not Elysium, that the real world doesn't follow narrative logic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. This was supposed to be a better story. That's a way to sum this up. That is what Clara is feeling.
Don't those animals know we have the mandate of heaven?
Exactly. Fucking awful. But yeah.
Yeah.
Really sad. And since this isn't following the better story, the narrative logic, divine right that we have and nobody else apparently agrees about, then it's time to go back home and make certain we come back with better weapons, I guess, and more heroin.
Yeah. Bethany's in a fairly similar place. She has been angry at Elysium angry at Metropolis, not like just since they got there, but like pretty soon after.
Okay.
Like, in a similar fashion of like, this is supposed to be the better place, and this is the place where we will rule. And, you know, she showed up and was still very in an episode. And at least, you know, back in Elysium, she has an idea of when she's seeing weird things. But also in Metropolis, she expects to see weird things, but she expects them to be real. And so having them be not real here feels like a betrayal.
Okay.
That, because the madness is supposed to help her see through the illusion, and here we are in the place beyond illusion. It should all be true. We should be able to see all of the things. Magic exists. It's all weird. What do you mean I still see things that nobody else sees and they aren't in fact real? That made sense when we were chained. It doesn't make sense here. And that she had been pushing her siblings to go and pushing them, but she thought we'd go with a plan. Like, everyone just kept saying, we're not ready. So we never made a plan because we're not ready to get there and we don't know how to do it. And then all of a sudden we're there and we don't have a plan. And any amount of like preparation she may have wanted to do, she didn't or couldn't, and is there and is like, okay, great. We're here without David. We're here and I don't know how to contact the Red Lady. We're here, and any sort of magical like power or ally or thing that we can draw upon is back in the illusion. Because as much as I wanted to be here, I wanted to be here with a plan and like having gathered all those forces and things. And instead we all just ran in after Clara. And now we're here and I'm still crazy. And also, I don't know if I can eat souls here, and I need to be able to do that because otherwise I will be consumed. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Like, do I need to bring a whole lot of people? Do I need, like... food? Bethany has a lot of logistical concerns currently.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can't. I mean, not only is this a place that's not really going to like support a victory garden, it is also very difficult to make a victory garden out of people.
I mean, we can work on that.
And actually, you know what? That's gonna be where we leap off of. That leads that lands close enough to what we're doing tonight. So let's get started. So what I'd like to do is before we place ourselves, let's see how ourselves is. So Clara, can you roll for your addiction?
Yep.
And Bethany, while you are still asleep, also roll for your schizophrenia.
Double deuces, so
No. Okay.
yeah. That's all right. I knew. Like Clara's bad in. That was a bad fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's rough.
Okay.
I mean, 2 doesn't mean anything different than a 9, but sometimes it's fun to give yourself a reason to lean hard into the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I rolled a 15, so that's a 13.
Okay. So you're not perfectly centered, but
No,
it's not as bad as it could be.
not as bad as it could be.
Yeah. I think what we're going to do with that is I think we're going to take those feelings of things aren't right and I don't know what to do, and we're going to kind of give them a voice.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have kind of a sense of like, not only are you feeling the things that Bethany is feeling, but there's kind of like an extra internal monologue sort of where it's reinforcing the fact that you made mistakes and other things. So
yeah.
All right.
Oh, and I forgot. It's actually a critical one, so it's still a negative one, so it's a 12. It's still in the middle, but I'm trying to remember. Yeah. And I just rolled 6 cents, and I rolled an 18 for that, and it's plus soul, so that's like a 22 or something nonsense.
Of course you did. Yeah.
Look, I might jump at every noise, but sometimes they're real.
And I think that's the part that makes it almost worst for Bethany, because if you could just go, everything strange isn't real. You know, you could, even though inside a mind experiencing this, the strange things that are happening register as real. But now you're like, I don't know, is the screaming skinless man standing on the corner really there? Because he fucking could be. So
hypervigilance is a bitch.
Yeah, it's hashtag the worst. So Clara, let's begin with some indignity so that we have somewhere to climb out of. You are DT barfing somewhere. Like, do you think you made it to a bathroom, or are you just in a corner? Like, how bad are you right now?
Just in a corner. She's not gonna let Matthew and Bethany alone, because she really just came out of death drive, and Bethany's really hurt, and Matthew is, all of them are injured. Like, everybody feels toppled. She's not leaving them alone, so she's finding a corner to go puke and just try to get it over with, and then try to focus her head enough to figure out how to open a door back to Elysium.
Yeah. How often does Clara have to deal with the throes of like withdrawal and DTs and her addiction? Is this something like, is she used to getting a supply, or is this something she's wrestled with before, or is this a fairly new struggle?
It's something she's wrestled with before. She's used to getting a supply. She's rich. She's got connections. If she really wants a supply, she always gets one. But over like the course of this game, she's tried to get clean at least 3 times, and has like gotten really close, like weeks long close at least once, and was gonna do it again. And since the baby has really been like, no, this is, we're getting clean, we're getting off the things again, and been very determined. So this is her like 3rd time in the DTs, because she's just really trying to get clean and she has no support to do it. So we like get through the awful, get through the shit, sometimes literally, because the DTs are awful. And it'll be better if you can get on the other side of this, but she's back on the addict side of this again, and it's miserable. And if she had one bit she would use right now, because she's got to get them out of there, and then she can focus on getting clean when they're in a safe space. But they aren't, and she doesn't, and so she just has to get through somehow, and she's so miserable.
Yeah. Moment of compassion for Clara. Like, she's a terrible person, but withdrawals is really gross and awful and difficult to go through.
Yeah.
So, Bethany, you are on the rising part of your post-trauma snooze. You are returning slowly and painfully in many ways to consciousness. But the thing that you like, the sleep experience, the dream experience that you have as you slowly rise back into the pain of being a physical being, and the emotional, both just pain and damage of what you experienced lately, you find yourself having entertainingly a rather similar emotional feeling to Clara, which is just a deep desire, like that craving, but instead of for a drug, you are craving the Red Lady. And for years now, sometimes on your worst wake-ups, you have had to suffer / been able to enjoy moments of hallucinogenia where she is with you, or the pain you are experiencing is pain that is related to her being with you. And it's kind of, there's that double wake up where you think you're awake and then you realize that you're not, and you have to deal with not just waking up a second time, but then the feeling of being alone. But in this case, this feeling comes with a couple other things. This is we're not going to go into it. This is going to be one of those like vague illusion, fade to blacky sort of moments. But you're having the tear me apart dream. It's not your favorite, but it's evocative. Maybe it's your favorite. I don't know Bethany that well. And when you wake up, you have a series of thoughts in quick succession. One of them is, of course, gosh, I wish I knew how to contact the Red Lady. Pause. I do know how to contact the Red Lady. I just need another Bethany. I'm not going to be able to find another Bethany in Metropolis. What are the fucking chances? ... This is where they made us. Somewhere in this giant fucking miserable heap of a city is the Bethany machine.
Okay.
You could, if you were so inclined, try to find the Bethany machine, or another mind-bogglingly awful medical device that would allow enough of a something or other, some copy to be made. Or you could Or you could try to contact her through yourself, which is something you haven't done.
Yeah, I have not done that.
You've actually generally not contacted her. She's contacted you.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, do you need another Bethany? Or do you need another angel?
Mm. I mean, she told me I could do it with another Bethany, but also that wasn't here. That was in Elysium, where there's a bunch of me running around. But if... Well, that's a disturbing and terrible thought. If we made another Bethany, I could at least eat that soul, and then I would not be so hungry, and maybe it would stop it from leaking out of me, even if it didn't work to contact the Red Lady. But that's a little, like, veal.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs there. In addition to the veal, the veal connotation, yes.
Yeah.
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 All right. While we're thinking on things, and Clara's almost done puking in the corner, but also feels miserable, and she is Bethany stirring yet? At all? Like,
very
this feels like
quietly. Yeah, I would say quietly. I don't know if Clara is still actively vomiting, I don't know that she'd hear.
that's fine. No, I think Clara's done, but like,
yeah. I was like, in the land of competing sounds, I think one is louder than the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we can also just say once Clara is done vomiting, then
yes.
Clara, before things get worse, stumbles over to like Bethany's prone bleeding form while Matthew is probably vaguely guarding the door, and just kind of grabs her hand and goes, fine, do it, eat it out of me. I can't do this anymore. Just eat it.
Okay.
She doesn't even know if Bethany's awake, but
Bethany is super fucking groggy and looks up at her and still has a giant brass nail thing through her arm or body shoulder thing, because she made them not pull it out of her. It's holding the soul in. But goes,
oh, okay.
Yeah. It's still there. Like, bits are leaking around and stuff, I think, but we pulled me off the wall
and
but left it in. Because Bethany was concerned about how much was gonna leak out so fast. Big hole.
As the storyteller, I will tell you that it can be removed without further soul trauma.
That would be swell.
Only because I didn't intuit that conversation at last game. Otherwise, I would have addressed that immediately. But the reason, what it does is it has to it pins a soul in a location. And the further away from the meat, like the dislocation is the problem. So if you remove it, it's going to be uncomfortable.
But it will just be a hole. Cool.
It will just be a normal hole in the body.
Well, that will be good to deal with at some point. But she will look up at Clara and be like, what?
Are you hungry? Will it help if you eat? If you eat not food, not physical food.
Yes.
And eat. You said you could eat the addiction out of me if that will help. I can't. I have to get us home. I don't know how to open a door, and I don't know if I can open a door if I'm still puking. And I don't know how to do this without heroin, so just take it out of me. Take that need out of me.
Okay, I am gonna try.
Great. Ben is in love with this. I want to talk real quick about like the risks and benefits. There is going to be a roll, and it's probably going to be plus soul, because there are clearly no rules for this, and if they are somewhere in there, I'm not going to look for them right now. By the way, I have my little Bible edition of KULT now, which is fun.
Nice. Creepy. I like it.
Yeah, and they even found like the font and the right paper.
Yeah,
so good.
The paper.
Yeah. If you roll a 9 or under on that roll, there are going to be incredibly bad consequences.
Yes.
Like this is a moment that Clara as a character could be altered forever for the worse. Like, we're in a desperate moment, and I absolutely understand where Clara is. So narratively, I agree with this. I just want to put everything on the table.
This is a lobotomy.
Yes, it is in many ways. It's depending on how Bethany and Kate describe this process, we'll see what kind of, because essentially it's just controlled damage. However, also, we would need to pick another disadvantage for you. Which we don't have to pick right now, but like before next game, we do have to select a disadvantage to replace it.
Yep.
Because we've kind of refined, like we've I don't want to say we've manipulated the sheets, because that's the wrong word. Like when we zhuzhed the sheets up a little bit, and one of the things we did was like every character had one major defining, like game affecting disadvantage, and addiction is Clara's, and so if that one is removed, we need to have another thing, but we can negotiate that and pick that later.
Yep.
This
So
is as her character, because Bethany has always said she has offered many times and always said she would never do it until Clara asked, and Clara just asked.
Yeah, this is the moment of complete desperation.
So she'll do it because she asked.
Yep.
So before we find out how good you done did it, tell us how it looks and feels.
Okay. Well, first, I'm going to do a first, which is a magical intuition, because that's what she's always used to see it in Clara, I guess. I don't know. It's all a plus soul bullshit, but she uses her magical intuition to see, like, there's a specific sparkle in the aura that is Clara, that she's seen, that is like that addiction, that is that thing that sort of ebbs and flows and bleeds in it in her need. And while Bethany's ability to eat souls is not incredibly refined, she does and has consumed only parts of souls before. Like, she has managed to pull a little bit before and not just eaten an entire one. So she has some amount of, I can stop, or here's control, or here's a something. So she is essentially going to reach up and put her hand on Clara's cheek and brush it down her face, and then reach into her aura and attempt to pick out, like an overripe fruit, the addiction from her soul and eat it.
Okay. Now roll your plus soul with all of your minuses in place. And everybody save your game.
I rolled a 20. I rolled 2
Fuck
tens.
you did.
I did. I'm gonna tilt the camera down. They're in a little box. Where are my dice? Can you see my 2 dice? That's my 10s.
Yep.
I did
All
it.
right.
It's a -1 for the critical wound. It's a +4 for soul, so that's a 23. And I think my only negatives are to disadvantages or keep it together.
Sure, fuck it. Why not? This feels a little bit like plucking a fruit, a little bit like pulling a tick.
Yes,
And
it is that same it might pop feeling.
Yeah. And also pause for a squick warning. There is a feeling like unto pulling the bandages out of a packed wound. That kind of pulling something bad out of somebody sort of vibe. Yeah, and you eat it. Have you ever eaten, like, they're my favorite kind of apples, but have you ever eaten a golden delicious apple like 5 minutes before it goes bad? And there's that little bit of like fleshy, like skin like softness to the outside, and they're very, very sweet, and just like the beginning of the process of decay has started to set in, so you get a little bit of that I want to say like leafy sort of thing, and you get that. And the thing that is terrible for you, Bethany, is you actually, as you swallow it, as it goes into the void inside you and is consumed, you can actually kind of feel that addiction clawing at the edges of your void. You can feel it fighting. And Clara, your mind clears. There is physical trouble. You are still experiencing the physical aspects of withdrawal, but but the craving, you actually kind of feel it being pulled out of you. And now it's a human brain isn't designed to interpret this kind of change. But the best I could probably describe it is that it feels like it goes from an addiction to now you have a cold, like a terrible flu-like cold that will have nausea and vomiting and other symptoms. But instead of a craving that goes with it, you're just like, this is something I now have to endure. But overall, physically, you still feel like hammered shit, but mentally, that is gone.
I think as I'm looking vaguely at disadvantages, and we'll pick which one. Broken is the first one that came out, and then haunted and involuntary medium. I think that losing the base part of her soul, that still it was a flawed and an awful part, but it was very much a big part of who made Clara with nothing to replace it. While in Metropolis, there's a broken part of her that is never, it's not going to get replaced. And all of the souls that we killed and everything, I think there's echoes of Metropolis that are trying to get in, and she doesn't really know how to express this, but she just goes very still and very quiet. And Claire is generally very vibrant, very passionate, very emotional person, and for her to just like, it's like some of the color has been taken out of her. And she's calm, and she just, good, all right, thank you. Do you think you can sit up?
I think so. I think we can maybe take the big spike out.
Are you certain?
No, it will still be a wound and it will still bleed, so maybe not.
We just need to pack it. And Clara takes off her shawl, and we're going to pack it with things from back home. So when we get you back home, that doesn't abruptly disappear, because I don't know if we can take Metropolis metal with us. I suspect we can. I took all those worms all of those times, but just in case.
Okay.
And then Clara, very matter-of-factly, almost slightly emotionlessly, pulls the spike out and then immediately starts packing the wound with her shawl, with her bolero. So at least it's not openly bleeding.
Yeah. All right. You figure it out. I understand your intent and I agree with it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, what's interesting is that the spike does not seem to be barbed in any way. So, it's a clean pull. And it's not a lot of soul. It's not enough to really do anything dramatic with, but between a little bit of wound care and removing the spike, how do we feel about turning it into a serious wound?
Yeah.
Still a problem, but not crippling.
Yeah.
Okay. I like, by the way, Erica, I just looked up involuntary medium and I don't know how we're going to do it, but I love it.
Okay.
So I think we'll aim at that one.
I like that one, but to me, it reads like, give me attention power. So, or disadvantage, but we're a 4-person tabletop. It's okay to get a disadvantage that like spurs plot on. So great. Sounds good.
Have you looked at Bethany?
Clara has a hole in herself, and Clara has to fill the holes in herself with something, and it used to be drugs and alcohol.
And Matthew.
And Matthew. And she still kind of has Matthew, but she is now missing the drugs, and she doesn't know how to be a healthy enough person to fill the holes in her psyche herself. So, sounds great. Hey, spirits. Come on in. There's a big gaping wound in her soul, and it's going to be there forever.
Yeah. And I think it also goes great with the fact that you've utilized some of your powers via a form of like method acting. So the idea that you could get possessed and compelled to act out other things feels like a really good kind of mirror situation.
Yeah, no, I think it
very Clara.
Sounds great.
Yep.
Good. Okay, so good news is you ate some of your sister's soul. Generally, it's only the bad parts. But yeah, that happened.
Good.
And Clara, as much as you think you feel better right now, as much as the relief is there and compelling, there is a part of you that is intimately aware of how easily Bethany could do that anytime she wants. Like if Bethany decides that you love Matthew too much,
Yes. Claire's aware, but Bethany could have done this before and didn't. Bethany waited until the moment she said. It was shockingly easy. It was uncomfortably easy. Yes. But she trusts and loves her sister, and this is fine. This is fine.
This is fine. Everything is fine.
Fine.
It's fine.
Not fine. We have to get out of here. It is not fine. I still have to open a door.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, Matthew, I don't think he's standing. Well, probably what's happening is that Matthew is actually probably futzing with the throne, trying to figure that out. Or something else that whenever we talk more with Elon, he'll come up with, we may find an interesting piece of story that we haven't thought of right now. So we're just going to kind of leave Matthew's position as over there doing something important that we don't need to bother him about right now, and we'll refine it when the player is here and we're able to pack some meat on it. Okay. So you want to open the door home. Do you have any idea how at all?
Completely, pardon my language, fuck somebody's soul enough that I tear a hole in truth. Because that's how it worked the last 2 times. 2 times ago, it was Clara fucking her own soul enough, and last time it was screwing with that priest's soul. So she has an idea. She just needs a soul.
So you just need to break something enough that it can't exist in Elysium anymore?
Yes. Or we're going the opposite way.
Yeah.
So break or make something enough that it can't exist in the Metropolis anymore.
I like it, but I'm also being quiet and letting you guys kind of throw spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah, it's
really good.
oh gosh.
Say this out loud to Bethany. Let's get this into character and
yes.
and into the discussion. So you've had these thoughts.
Yeah, so Clara's sitting there on the floor in like a cold sweat, but her brain is focused at least. She's vaguely sick and she feels vaguely miserable, but she can think about something that isn't heroin anymore. And she goes, the last 2 times I got us here, I opened doors here, I pulled people through, is because I did something violent enough to somebody or to somebody's soul that it could not exist in Elysium anymore. I broke Elysium. I broke the illusion enough that we had to rip through into the truth. And that it happened with myself. It happened with the priest. It happened on that dream that I guess when I took too much and you and I dreamt. So now we are here and I need to rip a door back into the illusion. Or back into our home. I need to make something that is illusionary enough, or like Las Vegas, like Pittsburgh, like our home enough that it can't exist in Elysium.
Well, I was made here, and there are more of me. So there's a thing here that makes things that belong in Elysium. I don't know where it is, but
if we could find it, perhaps overload it, force it to make so much of things that belong in Elysium that we rip a hole. But then if we overload it, if we break it, we can't do that again. I've done this. I've done it repeatedly. I feel like there has to be ways.
Yeah, there do. There has to be ways to get here and back. There have to be doors.
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 If we can just find a door that is already built, it'd be easier to rip open than my creating one.
Okay. Some guidance. Bethany, have you ever really gotten the full story about the priest from your sister?
No.
Have you ever really sat down and examined that?
No. We got there and there was a like bomb shadow on the wall and a hole. No, that's and we followed her here and she was missing and then she was captured and then we got her back and then we killed an entire people and now we're now. So no, there's been no time with the priest.
Well, try the priest. So, I mean, just knowing things that we've talked about,
yeah,
that part of what the way that process happened with the priest was fairly in line with things that Erica wants to have happen with her character. So let's examine the event that led that the priest and everything else that happened from Clara's perspective and see if we can't find something, a piece of funspiration in there.
How did you get here the last time?
I went to that church, the Atomic Church, the one that was on the edge of the desert. I think it was called the Church of Peter's Vision. He was a madman. In short, he was a madman, but he had seen bits and pieces of the truth, or he thought he was, and he was just so insane I was able to ride it into Elysium. But I promised him salvation. I told him I was what he'd always been looking for. He was right. There was something beyond this life. I broke his mind and followed it down through the rip. I didn't mean to rip open reality or Elysium. I didn't mean to make the tear. Sometimes that happens when I look too hard at places that are so close. When I look too hard at places that are so close to the edge of everything, of where Elysium and Metropolis, of where reality and the illusion meet. Sometimes when I look too hard, they just rip. And every time they rip, awful things happen. But it happened when Izzy lost her hand.
Do you want to look and see, or do you want help? Do you want, I mean,
help might be good.
Do you want to use me?
If I can, yes.
Because
it might hurt you more.
And I am mad. So I am on the edge of things. I was made here and brought back, and I am in between all of the things. So can you use me to open a door to take us back?
Maybe. Probably. But the only way I know to open doors is I will release things over there. If I tear a door through in between the worlds, things will get out after us. They come every time. I don't know how to do it otherwise. This is the best answer I have. but maybe you can steal it behind us?
I can try.
It's the best idea I have. It will work. It will just be incredibly dangerous.
Well, you just let me eat your soul, so now you can break my brain.
So Ben, the awful idea here, and I guess I'm gonna ride Bethany's magic to include her in this, is to do enhanced awareness. So many times I fail. So I do it until I fail, and then I rip a hole in reality.
Yeah.
Hey, look, once we get to
it's a great idea. I've got like, how the fuck do we do that paralysis?
Once we get to
No,
the
I
other
love that
side,
idea.
We could take a pause. It is
Oh.
9. We're gonna try to go a little shorter. If you want to think on it for 5 minutes, we could do our pause a little earlier tonight, or we can keep rolling on this bad idea train. But
Oh no, we're not getting off the fucking train. Like we may. Yeah, we're not getting off the bad idea train, but
this is literally how I've done it every time, is I've failed.
I know,
it's awareness roll.
and it's so good, and it's like once again, like that idea is so entirely perfect, and like I'm self-flagellating because I should have thought of that before, because it's like so perfectly like in the sweet spot of good, bad, perfectly in line idea. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are gonna take a 5 to 10. So that
would be lovely.
I know everybody likes my face, but you don't need to see it staring into the middle distance, not making any expressions for 5 minutes as we figure this out. So we're gonna take 5. Everybody refill your drinks. I know I am, and then we'll come right back. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Y'all in a few.
Hello and welcome back. Nothing has gotten better since the last time we saw you. The second half of the game will actually be brought to you by Jack Daniel's Tennessee Honey Whiskey, because that's how fun my players are. And I am delighted with them. So we had a quick chat and we had a quick calibration. What is going to happen next is a scene that is going to be extremely personal and extremely invasive, and in many ways, maybe the word abusive might be right. Certainly aggressive. And so, if you have vulnerabilities or gentle spots in you related to things like that, please be aware and examine your own safety and make sure that you're having fun. And as always, of course, players, X or just yelling stop, or the humorous safe word of lobster thermidor or whatever works. Yes, I think that you guys are ready to do what you intended to do, which is
Yeah, we have to get back in
a
character.
terrible plan.
I just had a Clara realization. So, so the plan is there. All right, I can do this. I can't do this sober. I've only ever looked at the truth under other conditions. That's how I understand things. I can't do this sober.
Can I try something?
Yes, please.
I'm gonna roll contagious insanity.
I think that's a great idea.
I do too.
And I rolled a 13 and I have plus many. Which means that I get to do stuff to you. Hang on, let me find my sheet.
Okay. You get to choose one option. Afflict your victim with a temporary psychosis in which they are haunted by their fears. NPCs only, but trigger advantage within another person. PCs only. Roll for the disadvantage. Affect an additional victim, or call for creatures of madness to haunt the infected. I think that what you're trying to do is afflict your victim with a temporary psychosis.
Yes, I am. I am trying to show
And-
her that this is the way that I see these things.
Yes.
I'm essentially attempting to share my psychosis with her. To be like, I'm going to try to show you how I see.
And I'm going to grab on the way I did in that dream when I took too much, and we're going to dive and we'll see what we see.
Yes. So
Yeah. What is the physical action, if there is any? What is the physical moment of cat therapy of
Hoseki.
of this moment as you try to share your madness?
Gonna do a thing with Clara that Bethany always does with Matthew, which is reaching out and taking her hand and doing the thing where they touch their foreheads together, which is the thing that she does whenever she's using Matthew for stability to like find out what's real and what's not, because her insanity is too much. But she's trying to do it gently in reverse. So instead of using him to ground, she is going to, with the same gesture, overwhelm Clara with her brain.
Okay. Clara, your sister, your fellow queen, your first family member, the first person, because Papa wasn't really Papa at this point. You bonded with her faster than you bonded with Malus von Horst. She leans, head to head, hand in hand, and there is a beautiful intimacy to the moment, and it brings you back to the times when it was just you two, before complexity, welcome for some, less welcome for others, of your other siblings, and the lust that turned into love with Matthew, and all of the and the inferno, and Papa's death, and the attacks, and the Phoenix Society, of just being two little girls that really only have each other in this moment to be vulnerable to. And Bethany's hair is kind of falling, you're leaning forward, so her hair is kind of falling forward, and there is a beautiful moment of connection, and then Bethany's face slides off her skull. It sloughs like the top layer on a container of rancid fat. It's putrescent and slick and aqueous, and it peels off of her face, but her eyes are perfectly fine, but you see them, they split. The pupils and the irises pinch hourglass and split, and then split again in a imitation of cell division. And then they split, and then they start bulging, and differently shaped eyes start splitting and dividing and pouring out of her eyes, and her teeth grow legs and pull out of her mouth like tiny little white enamel insects. And there is a sound that is a screaming, and it is a scream that you don't particularly know, because it's not a human scream. It's this incredibly loud, high-pitched noise that could only be made with a massive set of lungs and a huge breathing apparatus. And in your mind, you are shared with Bethany one of her visions, where the horse trainer at home was exercising a horse, and she had the lead line, and they were just gently going in a circle with the trainer in the middle and the horse. But in this time, they are both skinned, and their intestines have been pulled out and twisted and wrapped along a now razor wire lead, and they are in tension with each other, and they're trying to get away from each other, but they can't, and they are on fire, and the sound you hear is the horse screaming. And this is what your sister sits through all the time. And it is shattering. And let's make our first magical intuition roll now that we're properly primed.
Well, it's enhanced awareness I'm using.
Enhanced awareness.
And I'm focusing on, because it's focusing where like the illusion is weakest normally. She's focusing on Bethany. Bethany is a creature of both worlds, and she's using Bethany's madness. So she's kind of trying to rip this gate open through Bethany. This is not good. Okay, so that's a 12. I think that's going to be a success.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, it's I don't think I'm down enough.
That's okay. We'll make it worse in a minute.
Okay.
So
Yeah, okay, that's a success. Yeah, because I don't have any negatives. Yeah.
Yeah. Learn something about a creature's true nature, learn if something has a magical nature, or learn where the illusion is weakest towards other dimensions. Let's learn something about a creature's true nature. You know that Bethany was brought about via some arts. She's implied it a couple times. You guys have seen other Bethanies. You've seen your sister even consume them, both on a physical and spiritual level. But you get a sense of, and it's a little close to what you just experienced. You imagine a butcher breaking apart a carcass. Imagine, what was her name? What was the cook's name?
Miss Carmen.
Yeah, Miss Carmen. The only adult feminine influence you had growing up. But she did order large pieces of meat and did possess the skill and the ability to break them down into steaks and chops and roasts and things. And that mental image of her very carefully running an extremely sharp knife between the joints and through the different pieces, sometimes going between muscles, sometimes cutting muscles in half. And you see that happening, but it is to a shrieking white gold glowing something that has been pinned to the ground by 100 brassy nails, and it is being torn apart and very carefully dissected and vivisected, and all the different pieces being put in the canopic jars, but the canopic jars are all Bethany's.
Awesome. Claire's gonna keep diving deeper. She's riding Bethany's madness. She's going to keep looking, and however much she learns about her sister along the way before ripping the illusion. Great.
Okay, roll again. Now with an extra -2.
Oh yes, that's true. All right. Oh, there it is. That was a 6. So
alrighty, good.
I thought we were gonna get deeper here. When I want to succeed.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, Bethany, is there something specific that you would like to share with your sister? Either as Bethany or as Kate, is there a particular flavor of something you'd like to?
The answer is yes. I'm just trying to figure out what it is. I think that what Bethany Okay, I've got it.
Good.
So an image arrives in Clara's mind, and it is by the machine that Bethany has seen before, with the essentially lightly buried mass grave / slag pit of refuse that is near it, and crawling out of it from under the dirt are Bethany's, many different Bethany's. And there is one little Bethany who looks about 5, who has crawled out of this pit in a little white nightgown shift that the hem is smudged dirty, and it looks like it could be from like play out in the woods somewhere or something, but Clara now sees that it is from this grave, and she's walking, and she walks through woods, dark over branching woods in a tunnel towards light, and through the tunnel out into a field, out to the house. And Clara recognizes the house. This is the house they grew up in. Out through the door to the house, up to Clara's bedroom, where she opens the door, and Clara can see her tiny 7-year-old self having a nightmare in bed. And this little dirt-covered grave urchin Bethany climbs into bed with Clara and starts petting her hair.
Yeah. Yeah, Clara remembers. And now she has to claw me open and rip through the illusion, but has to get Matthew. Like, they can't go without Matthew, so kind of has to figure out how to pull herself back from this. And she kind of like, she's still holding, like they're still just leaning there holding onto each other, and I'm certain that Clara's fingernails are now leaving bloody half moon crescents in Bethany's temples and cheek and in her hair, and is holding on so tight and doesn't know how to stop, but they can't keep tumbling and ripping this open without Matthew. And Clara doesn't know how to get off the drug that is Bethany's insanity. So she doesn't know how to pull away. So she's like holding on and going, I think it's done. I just don't. That felt wrong, and there is something wrong and ripped, and we are going to fall, and we need to get Matthew, and I don't know how to let go. I don't know how to stop seeing this.
And isn't that just a funny fucking thing for her to say?
Bethany looks at her and says, close your eyes and just tell yourself it isn't real.
But it is real.
Close your eyes and just tell yourself it isn't real.
But that's a lie.
So is the illusion. Close your eyes and tell yourself it isn't real. It's not real. None of it's real. I'm crazy. I see things.
And that's what Clara does. She tries to get enough control that she can pull back and go tell Matthew that they have a gate. Because it's not real.
And you need to be somewhere that isn't real.
Yes.
All right. So, Clara begins staggering down the hallway to get Matthew. And once again, we have a delightful story to tell Elon. Bethany,
I didn't know.
go talk, go.
I was going to say, I didn't know what time it is. Do you want me to roll something to figure out if Clara actually does manage to pull back? Like,
no, I
Okay,
no,
okay.
because I love the role play.
great.
Like,
Then all you.
let's Bethany, you feel a little free in this moment. You've shared something with your sister. You had a moment, but the old anger finds itself in you. The this is what I've hid from you. This is what I've protected you from. This is what I've just this is the vitriol I've swallowed all my years to keep it from spilling out onto you. And there's a part of you that wants to scream. But there are many things that you are good at, Bethany. And one of those things you are very good at is not screaming. But this is a scream that has to come out because this is the oldest hurt, the oldest wound, the denial that has haunted you, literally haunted you your waking and dreaming days. And the scream has to come out. And you feel it mentally and physically. You feel the screams start to come out. And then it doesn't. But somewhere inside you, outside you, you hear it. You hear your scream. And then, like a pack of wolves, you hear echoes of that scream all around you. And they're dissonant and out of phase with each other, and they're creating all of those extremely unpleasant, uncomfortable cross sound feelings. And even though these are all your sounds, they are hurting you. The sensory experience is hurting you. And you hear metal rattling on metal, and you hear a sound that you wish you didn't know, the sound of someone stripping their fingernails off their hands on brick walls. And the crinkle crackle of overstarched too thin sheets, the kind they make the crazy people sleep on in case they shit themselves, and the drip of water, and the sound of the freshly polished leather of the guards' shoes as they stalk the halls. And you scream, but not you scream. Somewhere out there in Elysium, there are legion. And in this moment, they are channeling your own anguish through themselves, not because they want to, but because right now you are the one that is here, and you are the one that can control this, and you can't control them. But there is one who is screaming, and it's the one that's last. And you know this scream too, because it's not an entirely unwelcome scream. It is the scream of pain and pleasure and of being hurt and caressed, and all of those things that the Red Lady does to you in the dreams that you try to forget when you wake up because you can't think about them. And she is above you, under you, around you, and you hear the crinkling of those starchy thin sheets next to your ears. It's the pillowcase now. And she looks at you, and she is smiling, and her mouth is lacquered with blood. It is that perfect, like really thin like lacquer where it's the perfect red in between every teeth, and there's just a very gentle, glossy sheen. And her lips are bright, bright scarlet arterial red. And she smiles. And you cannot entirely tell what that smile is or who it's for. But she says to you, "There you are." And then you and we go dark.
Times.
Yeah.
It's always good when the plan is failure. Until we get to failure. Turns out failure happened real fast.
which is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so yes, it's going to be a shorter game. It's not anyone's fault. The stuff we were going to do was going to take all 3 of the Van Horsts, and Elon couldn't be here, and that's okay because people are supposed to not come to games when they don't feel like they should or could. So
look, our big plan was get out of Elysium. We've enacted 95% of that plan, and Elon needs to come in for the getting out part, and then we'll keep going.
What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
I was
the
gonna
drill
say
instructor from Full Metal Jacket.
that we were talking about how when Elon isn't here is when Bethany and Clara do crazy shit. But also I feel like when any one of the Van Horsts isn't there, because like Bethany wasn't there and the 2 of you killed David and like
Yeah.
the desert and like almost died and broke David and then and lost a whole entire hand. And like I was like, no, it's just anytime one of them is missing.
That's entirely fair. That is entirely fair and true and good.
It's like
oh my goodness.
But also, yes, Clara and Bethany, when left alone, just make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Clara thinks these were all perfectly fine decisions and were genuinely filled by logic. And now she doesn't need heroin anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now to enact her powers, she just needs to get Bethany to drive her insane. I forgot that, and this was a total Erica mistake because I don't know how many people remember way early in the game. I thought enhanced awareness meant you had to be on some sort of drug, that was enhanced. And so anytime I went to use that skill, I had to my brain went, well, Claire has to be high or drunk. So she was doing that. And then eventually, like several games of the campaign, I read the power and I'm like, nope, you can just roll.
I just added those words all by myself.
Totally did. Just made it up. But now we're this deep. So Clara thinks she can't access her gifts without being high or drunk and has thought that since.
And it made so much sense that no one ever thought to question it. Like, Clara needs her drugs to do the thing. Yeah, okay.
Well, Bethany needed her crazy brain to do the thing, and so
which means now that she doesn't
able to do the thing, so it makes sense.
Now that she doesn't need the drugs, she's like, oh gosh, I have to get fucked up and messed up some other way to do the thing. It's great. It's fine.
It's fine.
Oh my goodness.
I love it.
Yeah. So, stay tuned. Once I get a couple confirmations, there's going to be some interesting stuff being announced. So, yes.
Yeah.
There are a couple conversations I didn't get to have this week because Elysium is terrible, and it is a bad place to trap all the humans. So once we get those conversations had, we're going to have some moderately exciting announcements. If you are prone to panic, especially and specifically the queer kind, get an inhaler. Oh, someone said Place of Wrath and Tears the LARP. Sure, I'll sign up. Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Don't tempt us.
Mm-mm.
Now I have ideas.
Look what you did. Look what you did.
Logically, it would have to be central Pennsylvania so we could get this crew together and then people could come, and I'll dress up 1950s with anybody and do some awful things. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll not talk about that anymore.
No. I did have one thing I wanted to say debrief wise.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is trying to do addiction stories respectfully, and that there is no easy out to addictions. And that, yes, finally, like, that trigger was pulled and Bethany pulled that out of Clara's soul, but Clara is still in recovery. This is a fantastical game, and what recovery looks like here versus what it looks like in the real world is it's going to be rough no matter what. There's not any easy button to push and then suddenly you're not addicted anymore. And I don't want people to think that, oh, that's just going away and we fixed that part of the story. And so that is still a part of the story and will be like a everlasting impression on Clara. And because she tried to take the easy way out, it's probably going to go worse for her in the long run because there isn't one. So I wanted to put that, like, that side note in there and say we're not trying to make light of what is really a fucking awful issue. And I want to treat respectfully because it is it's an epidemic in our country right now and all across the world. So there we go. Please get your Narcon training. I've said it before, say it again.
Get your fucking Narcon training. Yeah. Yes. Following off of that, mental health and addiction and some other things tend to and usually deliberately take shapes that are not entirely grounded in real world neurology or, opioid science or anything else like that, because they do tend to change their shape a little bit or significantly to become a narrative tool that works better in a story. So, the version of schizophrenia that is here is not one that is accurate entirely to the extensive body of good medical work that has struggled and endeavored to learn more about mental health and schizophrenia and other challenges. So, like, yes, some things are going to take a different shape than maybe they are in the real world, but that doesn't mean we're not thinking about the real things. And so, yeah, I mean, get your Narcan testing, buy your local mental health professionals an extra coffee.
Yep.
Be kind, be patient, and remember that if someone has a brain that's an extra challenge, they're having a worse time inside it than you are outside of it.
Yep.
And if you are a person with one of those brains, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Just
like,
yeah.
Imagine calling yourself a shitty person because you have diabetes.
Yeah.
See how dumb that sounds? It's like, yeah, my brain doesn't make the correct slimes and I have to, like, take pills to keep myself from self-destructing because unmedicated, I'm a self-destructing machine. I don't think that, like, I have to take meds to keep myself from self-destructing. Yeah, drink your water, take your meds. Same time every day if you can.
Yep.
I think that's all that we're going to have for now. However, because we have a little bit, and at least I have a little bit, Kate may say, I need to go, goodbye, I love you, which is fine. But I have my phone right here. And I'm looking at the Twitch chat. So if anybody wants to ask a question, we actually have some flex time for that. So impromptu AMA, does anybody want to ask a question or make a statement or anything else like that. Apparently, Erica still hasn't drowned someone in a bathtub like she promised. So another campaign promise not kept.
Desperate need, like, yeah. Hopefully.
Once we get to a land with bathtubs again, we'll drown the fuck out of somebody.
Yep. There's like 2 NPCs that are object of desire, which is still Clara's other disadvantage, which is vaguely coming to things, but she'll drown the stalker at some point. Just got to activate one of those NPCs. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's also fine because I feel like her ripping open gates to other worlds is going to continue to be messy. She has to break things fairly violently. So drowning somebody in a bathtub to rip open a gate looks like a real good time to me.
Yes. I expect / insist that the magic that the Van Horsts use be gross and messy and bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this isn't Dungeons and Dragons. You know, this is not like classic like Vancian magic where you do the thing, you do the Roboto dance, and a thing happens. You know, these are not classically trained. These are not, you know, the magi archetypes from the book. These are messy, broken people doing messy, broken things in a messy, broken world.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be bad all the way down. So, and I love that, like drowning people in the bathtubs. Apparently Selkie has identified that please drown the stalker is their gender. So I'm glad to provide that euphoria for you. That is fantastic. We are not going to talk about this LARP because you have no idea how dangerous that conversation is, especially on camera. Like, we are not discussing this LARP while we're being recorded. Absolutely the fuck not. We're smarter than that.
Look what you did. You took this perfectly good player and you made her a game runner. Don't do that. Let Erica play the game.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So Selkie, our meme master,
Yes.
and also a professional queer panicker.
Yes.
What inspired the sheer level of queer panic that is the Red Lady?
Oh no, Ben described the Red Lady and Bethany made a face.
Well, it is some of it is I like making my friends make faces. I like tweaking various noses. But also where the Red Lady was introduced in the like pre-stream story, it was like they were surrounded by okay, going further back, very early on in this storyline, we realized that weaponizing and also attacking concepts of like patriarchy and societal hierarchy and all of those terrible things was going to be a large part of the game, which I loved. And so when the Red Lady was introduced, it was in a place that was like awful. It was patriarchy all the way down. And like I don't want to use that term too much lest it lose its impact, but it was in a place where very male dominated space, very secretive group, vaguely Masonic, of the rich and powerful who are ruling the world from cigar smoke filled oak polished rooms and that kind of vibe. And so when the Red Lady showed up, the objective was to essentially create a character that on an elemental level was in conflict with the forces that were in play at the Royal Phoenix Society. And the Royal Phoenix Society was a cult of Kether. And so when I made the Red Lady, they were absolutely not a human from the word go. and they were someone whose very nature was in direct antagonism with Kether. So I said, what would be like, how, like, two things. One, how could I describe a female shaped creature that is so clearly in absolute perfect 90-degree opposition to like the way I described the KULT. And then also I had just been reading Gideon the Ninth, which is a fantastic book, but I'm a guy. Like I'm just a cishet dude. And so reading Gideon the Ninth and having a lot of fun talking with some of my queer friends about like the difference between male gaze and female gaze, and specifically like gay lady gaze. And I was like, it was a fun challenge for me as a writer. I was like, okay, how can I describe this character not from my perspective, but like from Bethany's perspective? Like, how could I describe it not using the same words and the same foci that I would use? And I did, and it worked. And then I did, and Bethany made a face, and Kate made a little noise. And she's like, that's my girlfriend now. She doesn't know it yet. But we are dating. She is my Canadian girlfriend, and this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. And it was just going to be like this one shot thing. And then as the storyline continued, it was just, oh, well, can I have my Canadian girlfriend? Like, yeah, sure. Fine. Cool. And so.
Interesting thing. And Bethany's brain went, I want that. I know it's out there. Gotta go find it.
Mm-hmm. Which was fun.
Yes.
So, could the shape of water exist in the world of Wrath and Tears? Could someone with Eliza's goodness be an awakened character? I actually have yet to see that because I have weird media consumption challenges. However, if Eliza is the main character, I don't. Yeah, I know. Wrath and Tears as a place, like as a world version, is like really super duper fucking awful. It is heavily influenced by the Archons and the things that they do, and I don't think that, frankly, I don't think that anyone could be a good person and enlighten in the world of Wrath and Tears. I don't think they'd survive. Awaken, yes. Could they endure something terrible that changes their perception of reality? Probably. Could they get much further? Honestly, no. This version of Elysium is a machine that eats hope and joy and goodness, and spits out useful things for the Van Horsts. And it's pretty terrible. Hey, you feed the machine. But yeah, like, no, in my opinion, no. But everybody's world is different. One of the things I love the most about the Divinity Lost book is that it gives you a framework to make a lot of things, and then you get to make a lot of things your own. Like, you get to color a lot of things and shape a lot of things and make a lot of things and consider the influences and powers in play and make them all your own, but it's never wrong. So, if you want nice people to have a chance in your Elysium, feel free. This is an Elysium that was created to be a chew toy for 3 of the worst people in the world, and it's doing pretty good. So, yeah.
I'll echo that. I agree, and I've seen Shape of Water. She's too good. She's somebody who would get fucked over by this world, really.
Yeah.
Poor Eliza. Yeah.
Something terrible would happen to her, a la David.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she would catch the eye of something stronger and less caring, and they would think it was a kindness, but it wouldn't be, and they would use her and turn her into something awful.
Yeah. God, that's depressing. But
So
true.
there's a very large kitty right
Oh.
there.
Big man.
Never comes on screen because he's gently shy, but he's huge and very asleep next to us.
Big
Big
man.
Those cats.
Yeah.
He's so big. He's the biggest. All right.
So I think,
It is 10.
yeah, Kate's gonna go. I think we're all gonna go and
Thank you
deal
all.
with tonight.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
lovely.
So
Yes.
yeah, guys, thank you. I mean, the people that are here every time, like, we thank you so much. I think that's it for us tonight. So echoing Kate, drink your fucking water, take your fucking meds, do your stretches, take a walk, go outside, touch some grass, but not near anybody, you know, because panorama. So, but we are going to let you go, and we are going to enjoy the rest of our Sunday night, and we hope that you do too. So we will see you in 2 weeks, and we're somehow going to make it even worse than this. So thank you very much, and good night.